Hey everyone. I'm going to make this. It might be a little bit of a long one. This video guide addressing a couple of the bigger problems, and just generally talking about the process for coloring, um, and finishing the assets. I don't know how many passes we're going to be able to do over the colored assets. I would like to get more of the environment finished, so we might want to do one pass on each. So ideally, we can get these done pretty well first time. First, I'm going to talk about the shadows though. So Ed had this idea where we could actually have this transparent layer. In my case, I'm using a curves layer, but I could make it a transparent color layer with a kind of a blue tint to make the shadows pop more. That would actually make our shadows, and then just overlay it over top of the character so that the character can pass in and out of it. I've done a little character sketch here. So ideally, you're like walking on the roof, and then if you can drop down, if we can figure out how to do that, then you'd suddenly be in shadow, and that works well for this kind of situation. But the reason that I think we can't do this is because of the other way, where you're walking along this roof, and then as soon as you're starting to come into this shadow, it covers up your head first, which is not how shadows work. So and it really it doesn't look natural or good. It kind of breaks immersion, and then it doesn't actually finish the effect until you're fully within the shadow. And if you come out again, it looks fine, but then come back in and you're covered up in the wrong place. So if we are going to try and shade the character, which I don't know if we're ever going to be able to get done this summer, ideally what we want is to have a nice little core shadow around, or a little drop shadow around the character's walking along, and then as soon as that drop shadow character's walking along unaffected by the shadows, but then as soon as that drop shadow touches the character, then the character goes into darkness, which would require me doing an alternate version of my texture for our main character, and it would also require some pretty heavy programming, I'm assuming, on Ed's part. So might not be able to actually get that done, but it's worth a shot, and I don't think that this method is going to work, just because of that major issue. Jessica also said she wanted a little character stand-in for character size. And this is it. I'll upload this document to the drive as well, so you can have this little stick figure I drew in 30 seconds before starting this recording as a stand-in for about how tall we think the character is going to be. We think she's going to be about waist height with the 1 block high objects, and then it fits pretty well with the size of some of these windows, with this door, with the ladder. Actually, she's a little bit small for the ladder. I might actually change the texture for the rungs. So we can kind of design the props around a character that's gonna be kind of this tall. Now, to get onto the main event, I'm going to start talking about how to actually paint the environment. I've already done quite a bit of environment painting, and I've kind of experimented a little bit on how I would like this done. And crucially, I also was working on casting the shadows for doing this demonstration. So let's talk about casting the shadows first. Now, the way I do this is pretty simple, and it's procedural. So as long as everyone can follow the procedure pretty correctly and kind of flex those Annie 12 shadow casting muscles, we can get this done in a way where they all fit together and no one's shadows are incorrect, and they all look good together. And the way I do that is by making the light source, in this case the sun, at a really kind of standard, obvious position. So you can see that there's not really a great example here, so I'm just going to draw one. So let's say I've got a cube, and the cube is 3 blocks. So it's 3 blocks high. It's 3 blocks, and it's 3 blocks wide. And the cube is isometric. I'm not even going to bother with the holding shift and rotating and stuff, because I don't need to do that, because this is just a demo. So now let's talk about the shadow. The shadow is going to take that 3 block height and just cast it 3 blocks diagonally on the ground, just like that. Same for the other side. You can kind of estimate where that's going to be and kind of just draw that. So that's going to be like that. But then crucially, you've got this corner that's casting this angle, and that's 3 blocks. So we're just going to do another 3 blocks here and another 3 blocks here. This is not technically accurate. This is not quite how shadow would work if the sun was in that position, which would be right around here. Or here, let me. gotta be you gotta be color accurate. The sun would be right around here. Maybe right around here. It's not exactly how that shadow would cast, but it's a good enough procedure that is standardized, and so all of us can work on like making sure to cast our shadows properly. Other stuff, so like if you've got a wall that's like too high, and then it's like doesn't actually matter how long it is, then you're just going to draw your shadow 2 like that, or no, sorry, 2 like that, and then it's just gonna come down there, and it's actually gonna line up and it's gonna tangent a little bit with that, but it's not a big deal since we're doing isometric. And so when the brain kind of adapts to looking at this like non-perspective, it tends to ignore stuff like that and actually even like use this kind of tangent as a as reassurance that you are actually observing this perspective correctly. So how this happens when you start to actually look at the shadow, and this shadow isn't actually drawn quite correctly. The one that I've got in Unity is with oops, that's not right. The one I've got in Unity with my colored assets is a lot more correct, and the positioning is also a lot better. But basically, let's go back to Photoshop. You've got to like take into account this angle of the shadow whenever you're calculating anything, and then you need to look at the entire environment sketch that we've all done together and make sure that you're like drawing it correctly. So for example, originally I had this shadow coming out like this, and that you can see that's 1, 2, 3, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to that corner. So I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that's the shadow. And then you can see that this angle goes that way, so we draw this like that. And you go up, go over, you go up, you go out. Yeah. But that's not actually how this would work, because you got this thing here. So that means that, like, say I wasn't drawing this asset, but I was drawing this one, and I was drawing this one. That means that I need to predict exactly how my fellows, my other artists, are going to draw their shadows and incorporate them into my shadows. So I need to cast this shadow, even though I'm not actually drawing this. That means that I need to take into account that all of this is going to be in shadow, and that this is going to cast a 1 block shadow directly that way. And then that's going to follow up, and then that's going to follow out. You know, it's pretty standard stuff, and I actually think that this isn't quite right. But hey, this was my first go. Other than that, like, probably the hardest thing that I had to do was casting these shadows on this. And for that, I actually took a little time lapse of my doing the entire drawing process for this, and casting the shadows from these pipes onto this. It's a little bit, it's obviously it's sped up, but you can still definitely see my workflow. And also, you know exactly where this is going to be, because you're taking a look at, whoops, again, I did that wrong. You're taking a look at our, like, mock-up, for the environment in Unity. Everyone, make sure to download the latest version of the project from GitHub, and, actually, like, follow and pay attention to exactly where this is, and then, you can make sure to cast your shadows correctly. This is also up for another reason that I will begin talking about shortly when I'm beginning to do my demo. Now, let me go right back to the Photoshop document here. So, like, this is the way that we're casting shadows, and some of the casting of the shadows is going to be kind of tough. For example, right here, you've got a shadow that's casting from this angle onto this wall. So what I do there is, let's actually grab this entire folder and move it up a little bit so that this is properly within the grid. What I do there is, when you're casting onto a wall that the sun is actually facing, you go down diagonally like this, and then down diagonally like this, and that's generally how that shadow is going to cast on that wall. And then, of course, all of this is going to be in shadow too. Similarly, this casts a shadow onto this little panel, this little, like, overhang, but not from right here. So you're actually going to end up with a bit of an angle like this, and this is going to be in light. Same with when you're drawing this platform, which I actually haven't cast a shadow on yet. It's going to cast a shadow like that, and then all this is going to be in shadow, but this is going to be in light. But then this one is going to cast a shadow like that. So you're actually only going to end up with a little bit of light, a tiny sliver of light right here. It's this kind of, like, just working on figuring it out mentally. We've all done this before, again, in Annie 12. We just need to kind of get those instincts retrained. Finally, you've got to actually, when you're drawing the platforms, like I'm gonna demo on this platform here, you've got to take into account the stuff that's actually going to be on the platform. So I can go into Unity and look at the final platform and look at all of the, like, stuff on it that we've like drawn and populated this with. Now these are separate assets because Ed needs to assign them hitboxes, so you can't just walk right onto them, and also so that you can walk behind them and they can cover you up. But I'm going to briefly talk about that with regard to... Where is it? This one. This platform. So, I've added just a bunch of these weird-ass shadow shapes here. And the reason that those are there is because, once again, if we go back into Unity, then you've got all this stuff on it. And I know the correct placement, so I can copy this based on the grid. Like, you can just barely see the grid passing over some of this stuff, like right there. You can copy that, and then roughly place it where you want to on the on this roof, and then you can start casting those shadows. And these are going to be a little bit more you know, sketchy. Like, these, you can't do these as exactly as you do the ones for the architecture, because you can't rely directly on the grid. But just do your best, sketch it out, and it doesn't have to be perfectly exact. And then, like, just remember, before you export it, you get rid of all those, and now you're just exporting this with the shadows on it. And then when I go back to my version, I haven't actually replaced it with the new version with the shadows on it yet, but I will, and then we can see how it looks in Unity. Alright, so let's get right on to the demo. I'm gonna get some water, and we can start painting this. So I've got my Photoshop document with the asset open. It's in exactly the same place as it was before. We did all the positioning, all of the document sizing correctly the first time around. Each of these numbers is a multiple of 256, and so it will fit properly within the grid, and the grid will line up exactly in Unity, and so the hitboxes won't be messed up. I've got the grid drawn over it right now, and crucially, I've also got all of the other assets that I know are going to go onto it. But first, I'm just going to start roughing out my my main colors. So I'm going to put all of these in a folder, so I don't have to deal with them there. So I'm gonna keep the grid out of the folder. Just keep that on, and that way I can turn the grid on and off when I'm drawing or when I'm placing the assets. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up one of my other sketches, and this one seems okay. So I'm going to use these sketches to like figure out what I want the colors to be. These walls, they're not exactly white; they're a little bit off-white, actually kind of a violet, I guess. I don't actually remember making that decision. I might have altered it a little bit accidentally, but it looks alright. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new folder. Actually, oh, this is all one layer. So, you get to see me sketching, trying to take into account the lines while also dealing with covering up the white over the background. Ideally, we won't have to do that because you'll keep your white background and your line layers separate in your document. I guess I just fucked up when I made this document, so no big deal, because what you can do with there is you can actually go into channels, control-click on this RGB, and it will select only the non-black areas, or non-gray areas, I guess, and it'll actually kind of like, it's highlighted, but it only soft selects these grays so that they're not affected nearly as much when I paint over it, which is fine. Then I'll go back into my new folder, my new file, and I'll go to select, modify. Let's contract our selection. Contract, right? No, expand. We want to expand our selection. I always get those confused. Yeah, let's modify, expand our selection by just 1 pixel. And that'll make sure that we're not actually accidentally leaving any halos. Hopefully it won't make our lines too thin. If not, then we might not do the expand. And then we can just cover it up. Oh, we also need to whoops. we also need to isolate by the, let's see, are those making our lines too thin? Maybe. Let's try not doing that. Yeah, those are thicker lines, so that's better. So don't modify expand. Also just going to isolate to that group, and that's going to make sure that it doesn't cover up the transparency. And then for all the future layers, we can just isolate to this layer. Use a clipping mask or whatever it's called, and it'll make sure that our transparency is preserved. So next I'm going to start painting some of the native shadows that I know are going to be on it. So let me just grab this one, figure out exactly how the shadow is gonna, what tone the shadow is, and then come right back here, and instead of doing that whole selecting the channel rigmarole, I'm just going to paint the shadows in a curves layer. So first I'm going to paint a little bit of the shadow that I know is correct. So like that. Actually, I'm going to paint that on a new layer. A little bit that I know is correct. And then I'm going to paint the curves, and then I'm going to grab the curves layer. Going to completely cover it up with black, except for a little bit of white I'm going to put right here. And now I'm going to adjust my curves. And I'm just going to adjust until those are the same tonal value. And you can squint. Remember to squint to make sure they're the same tonal value. Doesn't have to be exact. In fact, it's probably better if it's like everything's just a little bit different, because it gives it that kind of little bit more of a naturalistic feel. So that is that, and then I can start actually painting on the shadow. And so this is this little overhang lip. So I know that this is going to be in shadow. So I'm just going to start kind of painting it, sketching it out, making sure that everything's going well. Can actually rotate. Remember, you can't rotate with shift because we're working on our already adjusted grid. So you just need to kind of eyeball it to make sure that your lines are straight. It's okay. I can start just kind of painting over this. In fact, this shadow might be a little bit too short. Might want to make it a little longer, because remember, it's kind of 1-to-1 with the shadows. Paint over that. And then you all remember how to cast shadows like that, right? You just make sure it's at that little angle. Honestly, Annie 12 is a lot more helpful than you would think for this kind of stuff. Yeah, there we go. And then we can cover this up. And remember, we're painting on top of the curve layer mask. Right there. So that's our mask. And we've got our shadows. Now for this layer, for actually coloring or tinting the shadow, gonna cover this whole layer in blue, and then just clipping mask it to there, and then gonna make it a color layer, and now it's a blue shadow. And it should be pretty much indistinguishable from, from the blue in our other shadows. It might be a little dark. Might have not done that quite right, so maybe I will grab this, bring it up a little bit. This is the great thing about non-destructive workflow, is you can just adjust on the fly. Just like that. Now we've got these kind of puddles. There were puddles on some of the others. I made them a kind of a gross brown. It's the puddle in the shadow, puddle in the light. But we've only got puddle in the light here. So, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of test that puddle color. Whoops. Try and figure out exactly what it's like in relative to that curves layer. Looks about the same. So now I'm just going to make it part of that layer, just like that, and then we'll see how I will color it differently. But spoilers, it's going to be with another color layer. Just gonna select everything. Select in chunks so you're not selecting the whole thing. Otherwise, you're gonna make more mistakes. Like, if you're ever lassoing something, you can always shift to add and alt to subtract from your lasso. So you can be iterative about it. Trying to lasso in one go, you're just gonna end up pressing Control-Z a whole bunch. So I never try and lasso in one go. And then also remember that you are using a mask, so you can always clean it up with a paintbrush once you've applied your selection too. So it's really no big deal. Okay, so we got that big one. Let's cover it, and then it's blue. It's the wrong color. So I've got this other layer right in front of me. Turn this one into a color layer 2. Just kind of select this whole area, and then color it this muddy brown. That's not the right one. Yeah, there we go. And then it's, oh, actually, I want to make sure that it's got everything. And then it's coloring the wrong area, too. Oh, there's also this little, I'm going to fix that later. Coloring the wrong area also, so we can just clip it to there, and then it's fine again. And so these are all just clipped to the curves layer. So for this, all I need to do, I'm not even going to bother lassoing, I'm just going to paint in with some white. And there we go. And then the non-destructive workflow for this is really important, because if you finished your sketching on my environment, and then you bring it to me and I say, actually this needs to be different because of blah blah blah, then you are going to have to then change it, and it's easier to change it if you can adjust a curve in the properties, then or adjust this color, say by using a hue saturation, or like you want it really saturated, stuff like that, than it is to actually, like, redo stuff. Okay, so we got that. That's pretty much done. We want to color these darker area, or we want to color these like kind of deeper areas in the puddle maybe a little darker. So how about I just make a new layer, get rid of all these, go back to channels, select that. Now, non-destructive is good, but sometimes you want a little bit more destructive just because it's easier or it's faster. So I'm just going to use this new layer and just block it in like that. It is going to color the outside, but I can just erase that. So why don't I go back to the... I keep on doing that. It's down here. Why do I keep doing that? Why don't I go back to this one? Just grab that, color it in, and then erase it out. Can be really sloppy with this. It's fine. Because also, these environments, they're not like a huge deal. They're part of like a huge environment thing. And also, this is like a really kind of casual summer project. So you don't need to treat it like it's your final in, I don't know, a hard class. 113A, say. There we go. These are a little colored. I'm not a big fan of how these how this dark is showing up. So gonna actually go in here. I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna duplicate it, and then I'm gonna bring it up here, and then I'm gonna set it to multiply. It's actually almost makes it a little too thick, so I'm gonna bring the opacity down. Yeah, there we go. And then it's only really affecting the lines. So we've also got these little stains on the side. Super easy. Just kind of I don't know, color over those. Maybe I'll bring it. It's fine. Toggle all these. Select that again. There's an easier way to select that, but I forgot it, so fuck me, I guess. This is actually going to be dark because this is in shadow, which I need to paint right now. So why don't I do that? Here, first I'm going to erase this a little bit. Again, it's super easy to paint shadows now. All we need to do is, here, I'm actually going to use lasso here. All we need to do is grab polygonal lasso and just grab all that and then color it white. There we go. Now it's in shadow. But now this is in light. This is in light. The other side we don't see is in light because the sun's coming from around there. Now comes the tricky part, which is I need to go back into Unity and actually grab the placements for this. Now I could eyeball it, but these are going to be a little bit of a pain to eyeball it with. So instead, I'm going to take a screenshot. Screenshot it. And then I'm going to save it as demo shot. I'm not good with my my stuff. It's fine. It's fine. Save. So this is just gonna make it really easy and really simple for me to place that stuff. So I'm going to find my new screenshot in my pictures. Just grab it, place it right there. Whoops, it's in the middle of my... There we go. There we go. Bring the opacity down, and then I can just maneuver it so that it's exactly correct. Takes a little bit of practice, but... Whoops. What do you think of that? Pretty good? I want to say pretty good. And then, yeah, the grid lines line up almost perfectly, which they should, because the Unity grid lines and the Photoshop grid lines should line up based on our previous project. So now I'm just going to grab these, and I'm going to throw them into this. Just toss that right there. Bring the opacity down. And just kind of place it in its correct spot. Same with this one. Gonna have to copy paste this a bunch of times, but it's okay. And it should already be the proper size because of all the correct sizing that we did. You should not have to resize it at all. Duplicate, duplicate, and then we can just toss these everywhere, just like that. And then let's grab this one. I'm not even making these transparent because you pretty much just line up the lines. Okay, so I've done all that. I'm gonna cover that up. Oops, I accidentally broke that, but that's fixed. Done all that. Can make this non-transparent again. And so I know now that these are the proper, excuse me. I know now that these are the proper placements for these. So now I can start kind of drawing the shadows, and because I set up this curves layer, it's going to be super easy. What do we want to start with first? Do we want to do the big one first? The big one's actually really easy. All we need to do is sketch out sideways from here, because remember it's exact, and we know that it's going to go off. So we're just gonna paint over the whole thing. Just like that. And when you turn this off, this looks like crap, but you're never gonna see it. So it doesn't need to look good. And then we actually have to turn the grid on for this new one. So this is about a block, about a block high. I keep saying block high, but that's Minecraft. A little bit more than a block high, so I'm gonna kind of, whoops, that's actually cutting into that a little bit, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Oh, yeah, that's gonna make things a little tricky because I already used that. I'm gonna do a clever thing with the layers when I take care of that one. But for now, all I'm gonna do is erase this. Yeah, that's gonna go about there. And then this angle, I am making an executive decision to just ignore it, because you can do that. It's fine, because it's not like, it doesn't have to be the most perfect, precise, like, beautiful shadow of all time, that like absolutely, like, perfectly represents how the object that's casting the shadow is shaped. You can just do stuff like this, and then this is all going to be in shadow, or this is going to be in shadow up to here. This is why it's important to do this one first, so then the person who's painting this object can cast this shadow at its appropriate point right there. Kinda cover this up a little bit more, do a little bit of that, a little bit of cleanup. Yeah, pretty good. It's functional, and that's it. So now, this stuff overlaps with this little thing, and because I use the curves layer to paint this, I can't really do that same thing where I just paint the curves layer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn this off. Turn both of these off. No, that's not working. How will I do this? I think I know. I am going to merge these layers. Whoops, I can't actually merge those layers because they're part of clipping mask. So, I'm going to merge these layers. Oh. Okay. I'm going to turn off my lines. Undo that. Then I'm going to merge these layers. And I'm going to copy paste this. I need to actually select it first. Copy paste this. And then Control Z all the way back. turn these back on. I can actually turn the grid off for this. And then put these all in a folder. Make sure the folder is... Oh, I can't actually do that. Well, I'll put these all in a folder. Turn that folder off. And now I can paste this back on. Bring it down here. Whoops, that's in the folder now. Bring it down here. Clip it to there. So there's that, and then that's actually not there. That's the curves. You guys get to see my my problem solving in real time. How's that for fun? Bring that all the way back up because that messed that up a little bit. So now I've got this one. Going to it's always good to keep a backup, so I'm going to duplicate this folder and leave that one uncovered before I start messing with this stuff. But that's going to involve me just straight up deleting this one and totally covering up that, or totally covering up this one in black. This is visible, so this is totally covered and this is blue. But then that means that when I start painting over it, this, we're gonna get that. Pretty good, I say. And then that's gonna stay dark because shadow can only make something so dark because of bounce light from the atmosphere. So that works out. Perfect. Sorry, that was a little bit more technical than I think you guys needed, but I'm sure that anyone who really wants to follow along can follow along with my crazy little rigmarole that I just did there. But if you don't want to, then you don't have to. So I'm going to start painting this shadow. Doesn't need to be perfect, just kind of sketch it out. So... not quite. Nice little trick is to try and orient this angle to the top of the canvas. That'll get me to be able to try and get it a little straighter, a little bit easier. And then let's do that. Let's do that. Now, this thing actually has a little kind of dome on it. So how am I gonna do that? How am I gonna do that? I could just ignore it. And I don't know if a lot of... That's not looking too great. I don't know about that. Let me just make another curves layer. Let me isolate it to there. And then let me... I didn't actually need to isolate it. I can just grab this. And then make another curves layer. Oh, that's in the wrong place. There we go. How about that? How does that look? Yeah, that's pretty good. And then the... this blue is kind of awkward too. Let me just take care of that just a little bit here. It's a little bit too blue. It's a little bit too dark, too. This is where the kind of less procedure and more painting comes into things. Because you can't do everything with a perfect procedure. Some of it, there's got to be a little bit of artistry to it. Otherwise, they wouldn't need us. They could get a computer to do this. So that doesn't look great, does it? Maybe if I bring this up a little bit. Yeah, perfect. There we go. It's the beauty of curves. This is what I'm doing right now, is just making it uniform. That's better. So, like I was saying before, this is a little bit domed. And I think that what I do for that is I just kind of sketch this a little bit higher right here, and then a little bit straight right there. Can do that by just, there's an easier way to do that. It's called the polygonal lasso tool, but I don't feel like switching tools right now. Sometimes you feel like that. Sometimes you're just like, I don't want to switch tools. It's not a good way to paint, but it's okay. Oh, I forgot I switched the opacity out of 40% mode. There. That illustrates the dome a little bit better, and I can do the same thing on this side. It's a little bit thinner than that. Yeah, let's do that. And then I actually am going to use the polygonal lasso tool for this. In fact, I should have just done this. There. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Is that not white? That isn't white. I wasn't painting with white. Oh, I'm a dump. How about over here? It's looking pretty good. Yeah? It's a little awkward. Maybe just want to bring that in a little bit. So there is definitely still a lot of artistic decision making involved in this process. It's not just procedure. So I'm relying on y'all to be good artists also, but that shouldn't be much of a problem. I hear you're good at that. A little bit like that, a little bit of a flattened off top, maybe a little fatter, just a little fatter, because the shadow does make it a little longer. Yeah, something like that. Maybe you can transform it a little bit. Maybe you can bring it a little bit like that. That's better. If I was a real stickler for it, I would actually try and use transparency to get these sides perfect. But I'm not, because it doesn't have to be perfect. Finished, not perfect. Copy that. Whoops. That copied onto the wrong thing. What? Copy. And then you're definitely on there, yeah? Oh, fucking, wow. Alright, here, no, this is what I do. Bring this up here, copy right there, and then control click. Oh wait, no. Go to channels, control click. And then you just, whoops. Bring this over here. So, still on that. Come back here. Still gonna need to adjust that a little bit, but that's fine. Oh, actually, that was correct. That was bad. Okay. And then make sure to come up here before you move it again. And then come back down here before you paint again. There's that weird line. I think that's part of the background layer. There we go. Don't need that anymore. And then we can do the same thing we did over here, where basically we are grabbing this, whoops, grabbing this, painting in right there, painting in right, whoop, painting in right there, painting, oh, I don't need to do that. Yeah, something like that. And then last thing we'd want is a little bit of color flourish. Oh, here, I can actually turn these off. So you can see how fucking ridiculous it looks without any of that stuff on it. But then when it comes back on, then it looks nice again. Last thing is a little bit of color flourish. I have included a bunch of source images in the Google Drive under the file something. Hang on, let me find those. Yeah. Tileset coloring files, color source. It's a bunch of stuff from Mirror's Edge. There should be also, oh wait, no, that's in a different file. You should also get all the rooftop design ref. This is more color source stuff. Because we're drawing from that and then the Mirror's Edge kind of inspiration for our colors. For this specific platform, for the first platform, I've been using a lot of this yellow. It kind of turns really orangey when it goes into the shadow. I think it looks pretty good, and it works pretty well with the first, like with like some of the other colors we're using on the first platform, just introducing things. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that and dump it into this, and I might do, what do we think, like some striping? Maybe just on the edge? I'll try just on the edge, see how that works. It's just gonna be all yellow. Oh no, we're gonna have some orange too. So I'm gonna grab something from one of these. Let's find one with both. One of these. And grab the yellow. And all of those Photoshop documents I have uploaded to the drive. So you guys can color source from my stuff so that you don't need to worry about getting slightly the wrong color and looking slightly off within the rest of the environment. Now let's do let's just do a new layer underneath this multiply one. Whoop. Went a little bit off. It's okay. I've got a fix for that. I don't have a fix for that though, so I might need to be a little bit more careful when I'm doing this. There we go. My fix is I come down to here. I find my this one and I control click on it, and that'll just highlight the outline of it, and then I can say select inverse and then backspace, and it should. Oh wait, no, I'm on the wrong layer. Select inverse, backspace. There we go, and it got rid of all that halo. And then let's grab this one again. Kind of, might need to make it pretty small. Bring it like that. And then, again, right through here. I really wish that we could do this in the native Photoshop isometric angle, but we can't, so I've got to do this fucking bullshit with the rotating precisely. Remember, this isn't even viewable, so don't even need to do that. And I could do control backspace again, but I'm just going to do this because it's easier. A little bit of combing. That's what that is. Comb the hair of your environment. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So a lot of your environments are going to come out like this. It's going to be kind of a mess. It's kind of going to look like a disaster. But then when you take into account all of the stuff that's going to go on it, suddenly it starts looking pretty okay. And then when these get painted, it's going to look actually pretty good, like our current sketch in Unity. And some of this isn't even finished. Like this is supposed to have other assets here and that door right there. This is supposed to have all its stuff up, but it still looks alright overall. Couple of final things. For the windows and stuff, just keep in mind the colors are always going to be lighter in the sunlight, but some of these windows might show through, so you can like alternate light and dark, but then the windows in the shadow, everything's going to be pretty dark. The vent is a slightly different native color than the rooftop, and in the future we're going to have some rooftops that are actually like much darker. We don't want to fully just rip off Mirror's Edge by making all the rooftops totally white. We're just kind of lifting some stylistic inspiration from it. And don't paint objects that Scylla's not going to be able to walk behind. So like someone separated this ladder, I saw on the Google Drive, someone separated this ladder from the rest of the environment, made it separate asset. You don't need to do that because Scylla's never actually going to walk behind the ladder, and the ladder's not really going to cast a shadow on anything but this little pipe right here. So like use common sense as to what you separate from the environment, what you don't. That big stuff you separate from the environment because Scylla can walk behind it, because it's going to be separately kind of placed, and it's also modular. So a couple of the bits and bobs, like this thing, we're putting these all over the place, so it's really nice to have a separated one that's modular. Or this thing, you know, stuff like that. So common sense, have fun with it. Like you should follow my directions pretty closely, and make sure that the shadows are the correct colors, stuff like that. But remember to have fun with it. You are still making art, and like play around, and remember also, do not hesitate to sample from some of the like stuff, especially that photo ref that we've got. I sampled really heavily from like this thing for like those clothes that Nikita put hanging on the west wall. Here, I'm gonna pull up. Yeah, these clothes Nikita put hanging on the west wall. All of these different windows, stuff like that. Also, it's okay if you make mistakes. Like, I'll call them out. You can go back and redo them. I made some mistakes here. These pipes aren't colored in. This should really have this color on it instead of just this white. Like, it's okay if you kind of mess up a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, especially because this project is so short. We've got such limited time. Just do your best, and I'm sure that you're going to make some really great assets that we can really use for our environment. And also, don't worry if they look like complete shit in Photoshop, because they probably won't when they finally wind up in Unity. Is there anything else I should cover? Oh yes, one more thing. In the Discord, Jessica, you posted this. It's like off, so I asked you to please put that in the Google Drive, and I will take a look at like what you did, how you may have gone wrong adjusting it. I do not think you should start over. I think that you just made a bit of a mistake in the adjustment. My instructions in the previous video were kind of difficult to follow. There was a lot of really precise stuff that you need to do exactly in the correct order. So I can go over with that with you tonight at 9:30 when we have our environment artist meeting. Other than that, remember to save your asset sketches as Photoshop documents so that you can come right back in here and immediately start sketching on it with the colors. And don't marry your line art to your white background like I did, because that made this shit a whole lot harder than it needed to be. Do as I say, not as I do. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for everyone who's participating in this project. It has been just the greatest, and we're really gonna wind up with something cool, even if it's just like a demo by the end of the summer.